the end.
At this time,
We were wrong. Let's see if we get through security.
we're enjoying our breakfast. Thanks,
Shout
Brandon.
out to the yogurt.
Bit frazzled.
One child.
We made it with 2 minutes to spare.
Thank you,
Now
Francis.
we're sleeping. At Adelaide Airport, what's up with scheduling 14 flights to take off within half an hour? This is not going to happen.
The logic.
It doesn't work.
Nope.
See you now, Alice.
Just over a month into our trip, the time had come to head inland. It would have taken about 4 days to drive the 1,500 kilometres north from Adelaide to Alice Springs, so we parked up the van and opted instead for a 2-hour flight.
Alice Springs is a small but buzzy town located in the heart of the incredible Australian outback. It sits at the centre of this vast continent and is the base from which to explore the numerous landmarks relatively nearby, the most notable of which is the world-famous Uluru, also known as Ayers Rock.
It turned out that the owner of the Airbnb we had booked was getting on the same plane that had just carried us to Alice Springs and heading back to Adelaide for a few days. He had been dropped at the airport by his neighbour Peter, who kindly gave us an impromptu tour around a few spots nearby.
We settled into our new home, and after a much needed power nap following our 4 a.m. start, we headed out to see the town. This is the Anzac Hill lookout, just north of Alice Springs town centre. Welcome to the top of Anzac Hill. You're looking down there on the central business district of Alice Springs, which is not particularly big. The tallest landmark is that building that you can see there, which is the Supreme Court of the Northern Territories. Alice Springs is completely overshadowed by the setting in which you find it. The view is just astonishing. This is the War Memorial to all Australians from the Northern Territory. You've got the World War I Memorial here, and the really beautiful World War II Memorial here, and it also doubles up with plaques from every other war that Australia has fought in recent years. It's really pretty. So there's plaques there to Vietnam, Borneo, Malaya and Korea. Off that way in the distance, it's a landscape known as the Macdonnell Ranges, which I'm hoping we'll get a chance to get out and see, but it's a little tricky without a car. But they stretch for hundreds of kilometres. You can see the train line over there. This is essentially the central crossroads. All trains coming through central Australia from Perth going to Sydney and Brisbane, or the other way come this way. And all the trains running from Adelaide through Darwin, again all stop in Alice Springs. This is the main hub. 25,000 people live here. According to the lovely gentleman we met yesterday, about 40% of them are Aboriginal peoples.
Everyone has heard of the dinosaurs who disappeared from the planet some 60 million years ago. However, did you know that as recently as 40,000 years ago, giant creatures called megafauna roamed the Earth? A large number of megafauna skeletons were found in Australia a few years ago, near what was believed to be a watering hole, after they sank into nearby mud which preserved their remains. Some of these skeletons are now on show at Megafauna Central in Alice Springs, and it's well worth a quick look around.
Everyone,
Look what just ran out of my flip-flop.
how cute is
It's
that?
tiny.
How cute is that? He looks really scared, so I think we need to let him go outside.
And carefully take him out and then give the cafetiere a really good rinse.
Yeah.
Good morning from Alice Springs Telegraph Station.
This was the first white settlement in central Australia. And when they completed the telegraphs relays, which was a single iron cable that stretched the full 3,200 kilometres from Darwin down to Adelaide, which in turn was connected to Singapore by an undersea cable. News could reach Australia from the UK within a few hours instead of several months. So you can see up there a thin piece of cable. That was it, and it ran the whole length north to south of Australia. That's quite a good little map of the key points on the way. So Darwin, all the way down, Alice Springs, and then all the way on south. That's Port Augusta there. And then Adelaide, 3,000 kilometres with 12 repeat stations. They did it in 2 years. Lauren and I have just used these telegraph machines and Norse code to send each other a message the whole length of the room. And for our first effort, we did all right. So Lauren pushes a button on her side, like this, and that light pops up. I did. And the amount of time that it remains on for and the gaps between let you figure out what the word is. It's
What did I say?
absolutely ingenious. Oh, I've no idea what you just said now. H. I. Hi! She said hi! So 4 beeps was the H and 2 beeps was the I. How clever is that? Other than just looking like something out of Star Trek, hello from the outback, this is really important. This is a waterhole that was found in the 1870s by the European explorers, and it was a place that they knew they could reliably get water, which is why the telegraph station was put here. It's one of the few places around here where there is a reliable source of water. The telegraph station was moved to Alice Springs later on when the settlement there popped up, but this served them, I think, until the 30s, the guidebook said. Doesn't look like much. Looks a bit gross, but if you boil it you could drink it. We are just outside of town in the olive pink Botanical Garden, and we're about to walk to the top of Annie Mayer's Hill. And from the top we should have great views of Alice, of the river, it's currently dry, and of the Macdonnell Ranges. We'll see you up there. Welcome to the top of the hill, and the view is fantastic. Look at this. The landmarks that you'll recognise, that's Alice Springs town there. Up there is Anzac Hill, which is where we were yesterday. And then off in that direction and in the distance, as far as you can see, are the Macdonnell Ranges. That is the riverbed that we followed off in that direction all the way down to the telegraph station a little bit earlier, which is about, probably from here, about 4 kilometres. After a great day out, we went home to relax. As you're about to see, we had a very early start the next morning. Good morning. It is
5:50 a.m.
5:50 a.m.
and the 7th
of October. It is one of those days I have been looking forward to ever since I dreamed up this trip 5 years ago, because we are going to Uluru, which I grew up knowing as Ayers Rock, and I'm very, 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 very excited for this one.
We got on the coach at 6 a.m. and began the 500-kilometre drive to Uluru, with a few stops along the way.
That right there is Mount Connor, We're about 150 kilometres away from Uluru. It's actually bigger. This is 240 metres high to the flat top, and it's 18 kilometres all the way around the bottom. According to our driver, it's 10 kilometres to go around Uluru. After the briefest of stops, we jumped back in the van and cracked on. And though we were treated to our tantalising first glance at Uluru, it wasn't to be our first stop. This was. "40 kilometres away from Uluru. Welcome to the Walper Gorge. It looks like we're on Tatooine. It's the best I can describe it. It's astonishing. I wish you could see how lush and green this vegetation is. This land surprisingly acts as a massive wind tunnel, so it's known as the Windy Gap. "550 million years old." There's really nothing that can probably describe the scale or grandeur of this place. I hope this video gives some sense. You can see the dark sections where the water's dripped down the wall over years and years and years. This is 500 metres to the top, and we're standing in the middle of this gorge, and it's incredible. It really is. It's just something else, and that's all I've got to describe it. This does give you a better sense of just how big they are.
After a quick visit to the nearby Aboriginal Cultural Centre, it was finally time to get up close to Uluru.
So this grey is the original colour of the whole of Ayers Rock, Uluru. And it now looks this reddish pink because the rock contains a large content of iron. So it's rusted over the millennia, and now it looks this pinkish red hue. You have to look in the caves to see the original colour. It's absolutely breathtaking. It's so vast. Colour markings where the water's been running down it for hundreds of thousands of millions of years. 10 kilometres to walk around it. Absolutely amazing to be standing here. What a privilege. That is the sunset hitting Uluru, and it's one of the most iconic, special, wonderful things I think I've ever seen and I'm ever likely to see.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect.
It's golden hour now. The sun's going to be gone in about 3 minutes. That's the last of it. Look at that. Amazing. We enjoyed an amazing sunset barbecue and then jumped back in the coach for an almost uneventful 5-hour drive back home. Good morning.
Good morning.
Again.
It is the 8th of October.
Thankfully it's not 5:40. It's now
7:43.
7:40 and we are heading back out today to go on a tour of the
West Macdonnell Ranges.
West Macdonnell Ranges. What did we think of Uluru and, I can't pronounce it, but the other range of rocks that we saw before we went to Uluru yesterday?
Brilliant, weren't they? They were enormous and vast, and you just kind of wonder, how did these things emerge, because there is nothing around it. It's just flat land and then suddenly these massive rocks.
Things were going well. We had a brilliant sunset barbecue,
Made some friends.
and then we had a slight snafu on the way
We
back.
literally just hit Alice Springs. We were on the way back. We were all very excited. We wanted our beds, and then
Some Aboriginal children who were out at about, I don't know, 12:30 in the evening on a Saturday morning, decided to lob rocks at the bus, and two
right at our
rocks
window.
went right into our window, right next to where we were sitting. One of them, I don't think it went through, but it smashed a giant hole about 12 inches above Lauren's head. I was showered in glass. Lauren had some, but not as much on her. I think I was
Thank you, darling, for taking the
the
hit.
spray zone. So we're fine, but I had to get in the shower and try and very carefully get shards of glass out of my hair, and that was a bit unpleasant.
It was.
So we're going back to the bus stop. We're going out again. We're not going to let yesterday's incident put a downer on things. Yesterday was spectacular, and today is going to be just as good. See you there.
We got on another bus and headed out for a whistle-stop tour of the West Macdonnell Ranges.
Welcome to the slightly windy, slightly chilly, but awe-inspiring Simpsons Gap in the West Macdonnell Ranges. It's named Simpsons Gap by one of the first explorers in these parts to try and chart a way for the telegraph cable to get through south to north. He found this place, named it Simpsons Gap, and regrettably didn't tell anyone who Simpson was or who it was named after. So it's called Simpsons Gap, but no one knows why. Welcome to the Stanley Castle, named after Miss Stanley, who was the first school teacher out here in the 1930s, I think is what he said. 50 metres high, about 5 metres wide at its narrowest point. These are the ochre pits, where Aboriginal peoples would dig for ochre, formed about 300 million years ago. The colour is wonderful. We have just had lunch and we are walking up to the viewpoint here at Ormiston Gorge. There's a watering hole down below us and a nice bit of beach. So after a little look at the view, we are going to head down there for a swim. Look at this view of the West Macdonnell Ranges. Stunning.
Look at this. Is that not fantastic?
There's the water hole down there. Look at this view. It's a bit windy.
A bit windy.
Stunning. So we're going to enjoy this view. Want to go for a swim?
And we go for a swim.
Welcome to the Ormiston Gorge waterhole. It is one of the most beautiful swimming pools that I think you could ever hope that you might be lucky enough to find. It's fantastic.
I made it!
And it's deep enough that you can dive straight in. This is the biggest watering hole in central Australia. It's fabulous.
On the journey back to town, we learned from one of our guides that the Alice Springs Rodeo was returning that evening after a 10-year break. We had to check it out. Things didn't get off to the best start.
Please do fine, our young athletes get ready to go to dance.
Oh God! Oh bloody hell! The hosts didn't want us all staring at the man in agony on the floor, so they came up with a distraction. It's a rodeo dirty dancing competition! I think they're trying to distract from the fact that an ambulance is about to come and get the last guy out. Thoughts, Laura?
He must be. Best time of your life.
The crowd are going kind of wild. After a few more horses had shown their riders exactly who was the boss, it was time for something a little bit different. Okay, it's an agility test on motorbikes. Here we go. So 3 turns and then back through the finishing flags. Round turn 1. Round turn 2. Long drive down to turn 3. And I gun it through the finish. Nice.
We watched a few terrifying bulls make short work of their riders before heading home for some much needed sleep. Once a month on a Sunday morning, Alice Springs hosts a market. We were fortunate to catch it while we were staying and had a good wander around.
Love it. Could be Susie.
Our fashion sense may have been slightly influenced by what we had seen the night before.
Oh yes.
Well, that escalated quickly, didn't it? We couldn't leave Alice without a visit to the Uluru Cultural Precinct, which hosts some of the very finest Aboriginal artwork to be found anywhere in Australia. We're in the Aboriginal Art Centre. The colours that they've achieved are astonishing. So beautiful. So vibrant. The local traditional style of doing artwork is with these dots.
We spent far longer than we expected wandering around this amazing gallery, which showcases work from Aboriginal peoples from different traditional territories throughout Australia.
Just next door is the Central Australian Aviation Museum, which gives you an insight into what life would have been like travelling across early Australia by aeroplane. At the Aviation Museum, this is quite an important piece of Aussie history. This is the Royal Flying Doctor Service. It's how they get medical help out into remote communities. Still absolutely critical today. It's one of the earliest planes. Began being used in 1952, was retired in 1970, and it's now on display at the Central Australian Aviation Museum here in Alice Springs. A couple of hangars full of old aircraft, which are quite interesting to have a little look at. That's really important. If you need medical help out here, it's about 4 hours away by airplane. Well, it's time to leave Alice Springs, having one last sunbathe. But as Airbnbs go, this one has been pretty good. We are in the airport lounge at Alice Springs. We're going to speak very quietly so we don't disturb everybody else. What did you think of Alice Springs?
I liked it a lot. I really liked it a lot. It's unique. I don't really know how else to describe it. There's a lot of history and clearly a lot of tension still.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting place, and you can see it all happening live in front of you. So it's been a really massively eye-opening place.
I think, and you understand the rhythm of the place. It's very cool. But we've done everything we wanted to do.
And the surrounding mountainsides
Incredible.
and ranges.
The scenery is
It's
stunning.
just- The colour red, I just don't think I'm never going to see that colour again.
The same way. We have had a lot of sunshine, which is good because it's pouring in Adelaide at the moment. I think we are ready to move on. So we are going to fly back to Adelaide. We're picking up the van. We go forward an hour going back to Adelaide, so it'll be dark when we arrive, and it'll be 8:30. And we are
Staying
going to
back at
drive
Greg's.
back to Greg's in the Adelaide Hills. And then we'll move on tomorrow. So from Alice Springs and the Central Australian Territory. There we go. Peace out.
As we flew away from Alice Springs, we were treated to one last incredible view of the Australian outback. A couple of hours later, we landed in Adelaide, jumped in our van and headed off.
Welcome to the Mackenzie Falls in the Grampians National Park. Things didn't quite go to plan yesterday. Just pulled over for a quick look at this view. Great. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if you did, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.